Welcome in. You are locked and loaded to a brand new edition of Bleav and Panthers here on the Bleav Podcast Networks, brought to you by Bet Online. Desmond Jonathan and the Panthers' all-time leading rusher, Jonathan Stewart, in the house. Skylar Callahan from Sports Illustrated, maybe about a little bit later on, to give us a state of the team from inside the locker room. Loaded show today. Panthers fall 31-10 to the Dallas Cowboys in a game they were favored going into the matchup. We'll dissect what the hell happened on Sunday at Bank of America Stadium. We'll talk a little bit about around the league. Who's a surprise team, NFC or AFC, that your team would not want to play going into January this year? There's a couple for that. And then we'll talk about the big news coming out of sports really the past week. Bill Belichick leaving the pro ranks and going to college and actually accepting the University of North Carolina head coaching football job and kind of changing everything that there is about college athletics in the move. We'll discuss that. We'll find out from Stu how much money he could have raked in an NIL if it existed when he was at the University of Oregon, because this has gotten out of hand. There's 2,000 kids in the portal right now looking for new homes. So we'll talk about the madness of all that. And we'll give you keys to Panthers versus Cardinals. Panthers versus Cardinals, 1 o'clock p.m. Kick off the last home game of the year at Bank of America Stadium. If you're seeing this right now on Twitter/X, Instagram, Facebook, we're back on Facebook again this week, LinkedIn, wherever it is. Do us a favor, do us a solid, share it out, get it out there for everybody that's a Carolina Panther fan. Let's go ahead and get into it. It's Bleav in Panthers. Let's go.
Jonathan Stewart gets in, fights for more yardage. Stewart to the mouth of the goal line. Touchdown!
Wow, that's just pure Stewart right there.
That's a big-time run by Jonathan Stewart.
Welcome to Bleav in Carolina Panthers here on Bleav Podcast Networks. Do you believe? Rate and subscribe the show on all major podcast platforms and subscribe to our social media channels on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Video available weekly at youtube.com/@Tobacco Road Sports Radio.
Do you believe?
And yeah, welcome into Bleav in Panthers here on Bleav Podcast Networks, brought to you by our friends over at Bet Online. Bet Online is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. From the preseason NFL to college kicking off, Bet Online has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads when the games are being played. Think you know your stuff? Get in on our winner-take-all $300,000 NFL Survivor pool for the upcoming season. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino, get in on a game of blackjack or poker, or on one with one of over 150 slot games. Head to the website today. Use the promo code Bleav, BLEAV, to get in on the action. Bet Online, the game starts here. And we will start with Stu's instant reactions. Well, maybe not so instant because it's Tuesday, but his reactions on the Panthers overall losing. I said 31-14. It was 30-14 loss where it was never really in doubt. There was a little stretch right there at the end of the second quarter where we made it interesting. But for the most part, the Cowboys and the Cowboys defense in particular pretty much dominated. It's the first time all year where we've seen that I can think of where we saw the Panthers offensive line just kind of be overwhelmed. Stu, your thoughts on this? I guess maybe the Panthers were due to have a bad game. I don't know if you believe in that kind of thing or not, but they've been playing really well against really good teams the past 3 or 4 weeks, and then this happened. So what was your thought on what you saw on Sunday?
Well, Desmond, the Panthers have played competitive football for some weeks now. But obviously this game is all about winning games, and we go into this Cowboys game and we're expected to win a game. There's a lot of factors there as far as your preparation that has to make sure there's some concrete, fillers there as far as how you're preparing, your mindset going into that game. And it just seemed like for the Carolina Panthers, they were just out of sync. They had a game plan going into that game. That first drive, that 13-play drive, it was special. It was exactly the caliber of football that you would want from any team, right? The problem is once you get hit in the mouth, everybody has a plan until you get hit in the mouth. Mike Tyson, right? And you got to figure out how to recover. And we never recovered from, that first mishap where Bryce made a spectacular play. Spectacular. Scrambled, had a spin move, had a guy, looking for his chain on the ground.
It was Micah Parsons.
Micah Parsons. So, like, this is a freak athlete that people are feared fearing of, you know what I'm saying, every single game. And Bryce Young is putting moves on him like, like he doesn't belong on the field. But obviously, we know Micah Parsons is a spectacular talent. So I'm not saying that he doesn't belong on the field, because clearly he does. But what I'm saying is the caliber of play that we see flashes of from this football team, it's there. And we just have these mishaps where we have to figure out how to bounce back from. Because plays like that are going to happen. A guy trying to make a play, trying to make something happen, he leaves the ball exposed as he's going to the ground. What this screams to me is the word finish. We haven't had the ability of finishing. We've been competing in a lot of games, and we want to win these games that we're, having competitive football now. We want to win those games, but you can win them if you finish. So the pressure of winning, you add that to the mix, and you add the issues that we've had with finishing. And that's across the whole board: offense, defense, and special teams.
The main takeaway I took from Sunday, I wonder if all the talk of the Panthers being favored for the first time in 2 years, I wonder if that crept into the minds of, this is still a young roster, and I'm wondering if maybe that kind of started creeping into people's minds in the locker room that, hey, we're going to be able to just go in here and just do what we're going to do with the Cowboys. I'm glad you mentioned that opening drive, because sometimes we forget Dave Canales. This is his first rodeo as a signal caller too. Like he never called plays in any place he was at until here. So he's kind of learning the same time we're watching Bryce Young. Dave Canales is learning too. He is really good at that first 20 scripted plays like that. I'm just thinking back on it all year. Those first drives, especially the past month, they've been chef's kiss, pretty good.
I can say, as a player, if I'm in that locker room, I'm now, for the first six, the last 6 years or so, we've been having questions, about coaching, quarterback questions, and a little bit of player questions, right? We're getting to the point now where there's no more coaching questions. I mean, as a player, you watch film, it's all about executing.
And that's weird.
Look at a lot of the players that, have had some, pretty good games the last 4 games. This was a game where, something shifted, where we weren't finishing certain things, especially on the defensive front. The front 7 there, Josie Jewell's in on every single play.
Mm-hmm.
That's great, but he shouldn't be. The defensive line, the interior, the interior has to figure out ways to win their one-on-one matchups. They have to figure out a way to be present in those gaps, so that way other guys can make plays. And then when, Evero, I think he did an incredible job, with the blitz packages that he sent. There's a lot of guys in place and just didn't make the play. And as a player, you have to go and look yourself in the mirror and say, hey, I know I'm beat up. It's week 15 going into week 16. It's a long season. We're not playing for anything. It's hard, but you got to figure out why you're playing this game and find that extra juice to get you over the edge to make these plays. Because, there was countless times where I saw a blitz right up the A gap, and you're in position to make a tackle, and the guy just slips you because you're not bringing your hips. You're playing with your hands. You're playing with your arms, trying to depend on stopping another guy that's getting paid millions of dollars. You're depending on your arms to bring him down? Absolutely not. You got to bring that shoulder pad. Okay, so there's just a lot of little things as far as execution that we're starting to see, and it's going to happen. Guys are going to get injured, and certain guys on the depth are going to be called up for duty, and you just have to make sure you're ready and you're prepared.
It felt like the Cowboys had been listening to all the talk about them coming in as underdogs too, because it did feel like they had a bit more pep in their step, like all day, especially the defense. The defense, it looked like they kind of took it as a challenge because they were in Bryce's kitchen all day.
So when I was at the game, I actually saw Micah Parsons, on the field, And he had a whole different demeanor than any person on that field pregame. He had an aura of pissed off, right? Why, like pissed off that he's even there, right? But pissed off even that he's there in the situation that he's in, being compared to the Carolina Panthers team as, the underdog, right? So as a player, you gotta find something to play for, and I think he found something to play for.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure throughout this week, the talk was, ain't no way we underdogs to the Carolina Panthers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the narrative has been for some time now that Carolina is not favored to win any games.
Right. Yeah.
So for the Dallas Cowboys, you look at the film, you watch that game, they're playing with a whole different type of motor and expectation than the Carolina Panthers were. And they knew who their players were. Their stars came to play. CeeDee Lamb came to play. Rico Dowdle came to play. Cooper Rush came to play. You know what I'm saying? Offensive line came to play, right? And then Micah Parsons, 2 sacks. He had 2 sacks, right?
They had 6 total.
They had 6 total.
Let me go find them.
But they did a great job in the interior of making it hard for our running backs to find lanes. Our guards were having a little tough time, in pass blocking, letting I think it was 94 slip through that got that hit on Bryce for the fumble.
Oh, the strips, yeah.
Yeah. And so there was just a lot there as far as execution. Like, it wasn't bad play calling. It wasn't it wasn't bad situations on the field. It was just executing. And sometimes you just have games like that, man, where things just don't go well. I remember we played Tennessee Titans at home one year. I think it might have been Cam's second year. And dude, they played like cover 4 the whole entire time. It was just one of those games where we were just like, we can't beat the guy across from us.
Yeah. And we had a game like that a couple years ago. The San Francisco game comes to mind. I think it was Steve Wilkes' first game as interim head coach, and we just got
mollywop.
No, it was the game that made him the interim head coach the next week. That was the game that got fired. But yeah, it was one of those kind of games where it was just like, what do you do? And we've been on the other side of that before. That same year against Detroit, that cold game.
Yeah, where Detroit came in here guns blazing.
Yeah,
and they just couldn't deal with the cold. They couldn't deal with the travel. They couldn't deal with the time of the season for them. It was like, man, it's Christmas. We've been winning enough games. Let's just go ahead and throw this one in the towel.
Right. Yeah. So I'm looking through the box score, and I'm just like, man, like, because if you look at it, so Cooper Rush and Bryce Young, Cooper Rush threw for 3 touchdowns, 214 yards, 18 for 29. Had a good day. We got 1 sack off on him. Bryce turned the ball over 4 times, 2 fumbles, 2 interceptions. I'm sorry, we're not really
not going to get it done.
Whole Bryce Young, but you can't turn the ball over 4 times.
Yeah.
Like, you just can't.
And he knows that, right?
Yeah, he knows.
We all know that. And but check this, right? Those many turnovers, he was still pretty efficient with his numbers.
Yeah,
right. 19 look at his 19 for 28, and at one point it was like 17 for 22. Right. So, and I think that's a positive that we can hang our head on and obviously we have the big explosive play with Jalen Coker for 80+ yard touchdown. So that pats the stats and whatnot. But, the response there, even on that play particular, the defense does their job and they make a stop. Offense now has a job to do. Go out there and put up a response. And kudos to Dave Canales of recognizing, throughout the game, Dallas was having a lot of trouble when they were in empty. When it's an empty backfield and they have 3 receivers to the right, 2 to the left, they had a hard time lining up and finding out how to guard that for whatever reason. And so I feel like, Carolina recognized that and said, all right, let's take a deep shot here out the gate. Let's go spread, first down, boom. Jalen Coker wide open, right? And had number 6 losing his hamstrings trying to chase him. And like you talk about Jalen Coker having him back. That was
great.
It's a delight to have him back. It's a different atmosphere out there when he's an option for Bryce Young to throw to.
And there's not a whole lot to really go through in this game. It was one of those games where we're not even going to spend a whole lot of time on it. It's one of those just we're going to toss it in the trash, move on to Arizona next week kind of type things, because there's not really a whole lot to pull out of it other than that little sequence right there at the end of the second quarter where the Panthers get a fumble recovery. The Cowboys are driving. They're deep in Panthers territory. Panthers defense forces a fumble. And then, like you said, immediately they come out on offense, 83-yard bomb to Jalen Coker for a touchdown. It changed it from 10-0 in a game where it felt like it was starting to get out of hand to 10-7 with the Panthers getting the ball at the start of the third. Like, oh, there it is. Okay, that's what we've been doing the past 3 or 4 weeks, where they did something like a game-changing moment and flipped it and went on. And then the Cowboys were like, no. No, we are not letting that happen today. Cowboys with 6 sacks on the day, which was really the main story. That and them shutting down the Panthers run game. Chuba Hubbard, 10 carries, 32 yards. Mike Boone had 2 carries for 14 yards. They really didn't have any running backs. Like that was the noticeable thing for me. They didn't really have a whole lot to work with other than Hubbard with the injuries in that room. Receiving wise, Jalen Coker had a big day, 4 receptions, 110 yards. Adam Thielen, 5 receptions, 51 yards. Xavier Legette, quiet day, 2 receptions, 7 yards. I've been told he's dealing with an injury, but I'm thinking like a wrist injury or something like that. Haven't seen anything regarding his availability going forward for the rest of the season, and he hasn't made any excuses about it in terms of the drops and all that kind of thing or whatever. He's manned up for all that, just like Bryce did after game 2. He manned up, he can't do the turnovers. He's understanding that. I'm fine with them growing from a game like this. I just don't want it to be the norm. Like, don't go lose 30-10 to Arizona on Sunday.
Yeah, it's going to be very important that they have a bounce back
to
where they are competing, right? We understand the things that we have to work on, which is stopping the run and finishing blocks and finishing blocks down the field, getting upfield. You don't want to just cover guys, right? We can't just cover guys. We got to make sure we move them like out of the way. It's like clearing. It's like basically, you got your kids that want to play and do cartwheels and all that kind of stuff. You got to make room for it. Got to move furniture around. So go ahead and move them furnitures. That lazy boy recliner out of the way, so that way Chuba can find some space, and so that way there's some throwing lanes. And obviously, too, Bryce, just get back to where you were last week, the weeks before, getting the ball out quicker and trusting the guys that you're throwing to. I think that's one of the things when you have those mishaps where you turn the ball over, you have a fumble, or you throw a pick, it rattles your mentals, right? So you kind of revert back to, the thing that makes you feel safe, right? As a ball carrier, right? So there's certain times when I'm running the ball, I feel more in a zone when I have my offhand available to stiff arm someone, to give them a power throw, like with my forearm. So using that off arm to break tackles, right? But if you fumble, that's when you start getting all stiff, right? I'm not necessarily looking to break tackles. I'm looking more to just hold on to the ball, two hands, and looking like a middle school running back, right? So, because I don't want to fumble.
Sometimes it's needed, yeah. So,
right. And sometimes when you're going through the line of scrimmage, 2 hands on the ball, but when you're in the open field and you're holding on to it with 2 hands, you're not going to make the plays. Then you're not going to make the big plays. You're not going to get those explosive runs like that because you're just basically running to get tackled.
It's funny.
Whereas if you're running, freely, you're running to make a play. If somebody comes up on you, you're not so concerned about fumbling it because you're just playing free. So when things like that happen, such as fumbles or interceptions for a quarterback, they revert back to safety, which is I'm going to try to hold the ball until I know someone's open, right? And that might be the case. That might not be the case. I've never played quarterback, so I couldn't really, validate that. But if I was playing quarterback, I'm pretty sure that's what I would revert to. Like, I just threw a pick. I don't know if I want to throw it right now because he doesn't look to me all the way open. I don't know.
I think Bryce kind of stayed pretty aggressive even throughout the game. Yeah, I think he stayed even on that fumble. It got peanut punched out, like the way they did it from behind. It was perfectly done. That was holding like a loaf of bread too. Like he kind of runs that way, like kind of with the ball, like it's a hot loaf of bread until he gets to
and two, like when you are actually running and you're going down to the ground, well, there's drills for that, right? There's drills for you to work on having one hand on the ground, having the ball secured tight to your chest, because it's hard to keep it to your chest when you're falling. Sometimes it just naturally comes out, right? And so when it comes out, the defense is trained, they're coached to make sure you get that last effort punch, before they go to the ground. And that's what happened. And it was a great play by the defense.
Yeah, so, I mean, I can't honestly. It's one of those games where I got to give flowers to Dallas more than anything that we did. I don't really think it was we played a bad game. They just kind of made us play a bad game, and that's kind of what you're supposed to do when you come in and play a team that's 3-11 or whatever, like Carolina. They're favored by 3 for some reason over you. You're the Dallas Cowboys. You've won 12 games a season for the past 2 years, and yes, they are super banged up. Like Cooper Rush ain't supposed to be out there. It's supposed to be Dak Prescott. Like they're all the way banged up right now. Micah just got back. Micah has been out for a couple of weeks himself, so he had been ready to go, and they just wanted it more. Like that's really what it was. And I hope it's a learning lesson for the team and Canales and the coaching staff to go in there and be like, look, that team came in and was hungrier than us. Like we weren't ready for how hungry they were going to be when they came in, and we should have been. Don't overlook Arizona, because Arizona is in the middle of a division playoff race right now in the NFC West. Like all 4 of those teams are active in terms of trying to win that division. It might be the first team to 9 wins that division in the NFC West. So Arizona's going to come in here with their hair on fire too. It's an open mailbag today. If you got any comments on the Panthers state of the team, you can join in. Like Zachary Hernandez here says, got to rebuild the trenches on the defensive side of the ball. Also looks like the Eagles are the best team in the NFC. I don't know. Is it the Eagles or is it the Lions? Because the Lions have won 11 straight or something, haven't they? Did they lose? They didn't lose.
They lost. They lost big time yesterday or on Sunday to the Bills.
Oh, that's
right.
They
also lost David Montgomery. I think he had to get some surgery on an MCL.
Yeah, he might be out I think they're saying he might be out for the season.
That can really hurt them, because a lot of their DNA is to be able to just be able to run the ball whenever they want to, right? Mm-hmm. Even if you're not truly effective, knowing that those 2 guys are available with the defense going against that, you have to prepare different. So you take him out of the equation. Now you can do certain things, coverage wise, especially down in distance. When you have Jahmyr Gibbs in there, they're not going to just ride him throughout the rest of the season like that, because he's not. I mean, I would expect that you're not going to call certain plays back to back, especially when he breaks one and he's getting tired and he might needs to come out. You bring in, the 3rd string running back, you're not going to necessarily call the same type of plays. You know what I'm saying? So
you
have to kind of switch, gears when you have a guy like that goes out. And I honestly think in the NFC, the Philadelphia Eagles can only mess this up.
They did last year. I mean, remember they were 10-1 last year. They just fell apart.
They can only mess it up, man.
Yeah,
and because they are the most equipped team, and I think watching this week they play the Redskins or the Commanders.
Yeah,
right. That's going to be a telling game.
I was going to say that's
as far as how they can respond and stack a game where they can actually be efficient in their passing game and continue to run the ball the way they have been and getting guys in the end zone. Because the Commanders' defense, Frankie Louvu, B. Wags, those 2 guys, they've changed the whole demeanor of that defense.
I bet
And I mean the whole entire demeanor.
I bet the Cowboys wish they hadn't let Dan Quinn go now, who was their defense coordinator last year, and they got freaked out from that playoff game and had to have a scapegoat and Dan Quinn, and now he might end up winning he won't win the division because the Eagles are in there, but they might get a playoff berth out of it. Usually it was the Cowboys. Black and Blue said, a team we're actually forgetting, don't sleep on the Vikings. The Eagles have the best roster, but the Vikings can be sneaky. The Vikings, what are they, like 11-3 or something like that? Let me go find the standings, because I do keep forgetting about Minnesota, and they just keep winning football games. And Detroit, somebody mentioned in the comments, Detroit's really banged up on defense right now, so we might need to keep an eye on them. But yeah, Minnesota is 12-2. They're the same record as Detroit. They both have clinched the playoff berth already. The division.
But remember, it's all about peaking, right?
Mm-hmm.
Have the Vikings peaked yet?
I don't think they have. They're 7-1 at home. They're 5-1 away. They've outscored opponents by 117 points. They've won 7 straight games. And nobody's talking about them. Like we are, but we aren't. We're not really like, ooh, look at Minnesota. Like, watch out for them. And you know what I think it is? I think it's because Sam Darnold's the quarterback. Like, I think people don't want to really believe that Sam Darnold can be this good. Sam Darnold is 27. Sam Darnold hasn't even got to his quote unquote peak years as a quarterback yet, or he's entering them right now. If you're Minnesota, you're in a good position because Sam Darnold's going to make $150 million in the offseason, and you can either decide to sign him, or you got J.J. McCarthy coming back, and you got all these things around him. Can he duplicate what Sam Darnold has done? That's the bet the Vikings are going to have to decide on here. Can J.J. McCarthy, who by all accounts in preseason was looking fantastic before he got hurt, can he duplicate or come close to what Darnold is doing right now? And if he can't, you got him on a rookie deal. You signed Darnold to a 2-year, 3-year deal, whatever, and keep this all going. This quarterbacks are not like they're not easy to find. Like, you can't just go outside and pluck a quarterback off the tree and it's like, here's our starter, 3,000 yards, 30 touchdowns. Like, it just doesn't happen. And for Sam especially, I'm happy because we had him here before. I wish he was still here, to be honest. But for him, the career he's had and the places he had to go to finally land in a place where he's got some stuff around him and a great coaching staff around him. This dude was picked number 2 overall in the NFL draft. Like, he clearly is talented, and he's finally getting an opportunity to see it. And of course, it helps to have Justin Jefferson to, throw the ball to. That probably helps your stats a lot. Looking around though, the league, the NFC West is really weird. You got the Rams at 8-6, the Seahawks at 8-6, the Cardinals at 7-7, and the 49ers at 6-8. I had mentioned to you earlier before we started the show to think of a team in the NFC or the AFC that's like the sneaky team that nobody wants to play. I'm looking at the Los Angeles Rams. They have figured something out over the past 3 or 4 weeks, and every time I see them on TV, their offense looks almost unstoppable. Like, what they're doing, Puka Nacua, Stafford is playing lights out. They went toe-to-toe with Buffalo 2 weeks ago and scored, 42 points and lost. So, I mean, it's like one of those deals where I'm looking at them and I'm like, that division can be had. Like, with 3 games to go, they've been outscored by their opponents by 28 points, but they've won 3 straight games. So it's like, it's one of those weird, quirky things where I'm looking at the Rams side on them. The Commanders are another team where I'm like, okay, they may be interesting in the playoffs. And then in the NFC North, we mentioned Detroit and Minnesota. Green Bay is 10-4. Like, they're literally, literally right there.
Green Bay strikes me as a team that is. I'll go Philadelphia, and the Lions right now, because of their injuries, that's their curse right now. Like, I can't necessarily. I would want them to be.
I hate it for them too. Yeah.
But you can't necessarily, give valid reasoning for it right now. To overcome injuries, you got to have a lot of depth. And the way I saw that Bills game play out, they are showing the loss that they have on defense. So, obviously, the Bills, Josh Allen and crew.
I think he's the MVP.
If you're gonna have to play teams like that, your defense has to be able to stop someone. But going back to the Rams, losing Aaron Donald, I think, was one of those things that people were like, oh, well, good luck, Rams. your defense is in trouble.
Hall of Famer,
right?
Get out of here.
But second year player Kobe Turner, right? 9 sacks. Second year in the league. He's playing pretty well, and he's a guy that you look at and say, well, if we get more play on our defense, to be able to stop guys, we can be in contention. And you're starting to see that a little bit now. And that's why we always talk about peaking at the right time. The Rams have been slowly doing this, right?
Mhm.
I want to watch teams that have been slowly doing this.
Especially this time of the year, right? In December. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's where they are. They had early injuries to Puka and Cooper in the beginning of the year. They'll get those guys healthy. And now you got something to work with. But then, Sean McVay has a guy named Kyron Williams. That boy is a 1,000-yard rusher and got 12 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Okay. You got a running game too. And he's healthy. You got the young boy that they drafted from Michigan, second string on depth.
Oh,
Corum.
Like Corum.
As long, and again, we're talking about a team that's doing this. If you're doing this right now, you got a radar on you. If you're doing this right now, even playing, we can't trust that.
That's the beauty with the NFL.
And Detroit right now, they're hitting that teeter like they at the top of the roller coaster because the injuries are starting to happen, right?
I hate it too because they have felt like the best team for 3/4 of the season. And the NFL and Major League Baseball are the two sports where it's not necessarily who the best team is when you get to the playoffs, but who's the hottest team. Like coming into it, who's playing the hottest. Like in the NBA, it evens out because it's series. Like best of 7. Usually the best team is going to come out on top after a 7-game series or whatnot. In Major League Baseball, there's shorter series sometimes, like best of 5, like divisional rounds and things like that. But
I look at the Carolina Panthers right now. You take that same mindset, right? We're out of the playoffs. We ain't making it. And everybody's talking about, oh, we should, focus on getting, the top 2 draft picks, right? I would rather have a whole roster go through the struggle of finding out how to compete and win games and finish like this.
Yes. And your own teams like this.
We're elevating. And then you go off into the offseason feeling elevated.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Because I see everyone's like, we want Travis Hunter. We want Travis Hunter. And I'm like, I want to win. I want to win a game. Like, let's try that first. Let's worry about all that in April when it's going down.
If you take the 2014 Panthers where we went
it was 7-8-1.
7-8-1.
Yeah.
Right. And we went to the playoffs. So we started off bad. And then we started doing this. And then we made it to the playoffs and did that. We won a playoff game. Right.
Against Arizona.
So we here.
Yeah.
Elevating. Right. The roller coaster ride is about to get really fun. Just hold on. So take what you just experienced as far as competing and winning. You got your confidence. You got some chemistry. You got what it feels like in the locker room. And now you go into the offseason, and now you can go get some guys in free agency that you can plug and play and say, oh, this personality fits this position group. This personality fits that position group, right? This can take our passing game to this level. This can take our coverage with our young players to this level, right? There's so much good that can come from a team finishing strong.
I'm glad you
want your Carolina Panthers to finish strong. Period.
The part that right there at the end that you mentioned about Betts wanting to come play for you guys after that 2014 season. Rivera was got to the point. Rivera was kind of known for December, kind of whatever was going on. The team kind of figured it out and started getting some wins there at the end of the season. The thing for me when I see people saying, Travis Hunter, it's better to lose these games. We've talked about this each week. They got to learn how to win and they've got to want to win and be able to win and finish games, like you said. So those vets want to come play here. Vets don't want to come play for a team that doesn't know how to win, like especially like a 10-year vet or somebody like a Peanut Tillman or Jared Allen, like guys that came in on
Harper.
Roster. Yeah, they're Roman Harper. They're going to see the core and be like, oh, we can do something. We can add to this and get you to the next level, as opposed to we're basically mentors teaching you how to win. Oh, we see you guys kind of figured out how to win. Now we can just come in and add to the cake. That's what we need. The last 3 weeks of the season, we need wins, because this other, like, trying to tank out to get Travis Hunter, and that's a video game mentality to me. Like, that doesn't work. I want to get your opinion on this real quick before we move over to the last thing, which was going to be the Bill Belichick thing to Carolina. What happened on Thursday night with the 49ers and DeAndre Campbell? For those that don't know, DeAndre Campbell refused to play. He walked out of Thursday night's loss to the Rams before this weekend even began. The 49ers yesterday announced they're suspending him for the final 3 regular season games of the season, pretty much ending his season with them, unless the Niners somehow figure out a way to get in the playoffs. But I don't think he's going to suit up in a 49ers uniform anytime soon. The 49ers had a short bonus practice on Monday, and a couple of players gave some insight into what went down. And this was from, I don't know, from Demonador Lenore. That's a name. I think that's right. But he says, quote, "For that to happen and him to do that, I just lost all respect. I'm a person that's going 110% every play. If I am hurt and the guy behind me is not backing me up and he can't come in or don't want to go in, I just feel like he's a cancer to the team." Talk to me. You've played football since you were a wee lad, all the way up to
talking about Devondre Williams, right?
The guy from the 49ers, Devondre Campbell. The linebacker that didn't come back in the game and basically just left in the middle of the game or whatever. Don't know the full reasons.
I don't know the full details, but when I see that, it strikes me that this guy does not want to play football anymore, clearly, because he's walked off the field.
Yeah,
and
during the game. Has that ever happened to you before as a player?
I've never seen it. You know, the first time I saw it was AJ Brown, or not AJ Brown, Antonio Brown.
Right?
The first time I saw that was Antonio Brown walking off the field, actually running off the field with his shirt off.
That was crazy.
And
that was crazy.
You know, to walk off a field when your brothers are blood, sweat, and tears throughout the season, and you're week 15, things aren't going as you want them to. It's the most selfish thing that a person can do in sports. Just quit on your team.
Yeah.
Mid-game. And you knew what the deal was, right? You knew the plan. Like, you second fiddle. I'm sorry. And so right now, we need you to come in and play. We need you to come in and play. You're not the starter, but right now you've been preparing, and you've been, presenting yourself as available for this situation. And now your time has come, your number is being called, and we need you to show up. You just walk out. That's not the type of thing that you expect out of a professional athlete. Yeah. Unless he is just saying, I'm throwing in the towel, I'm done, period. That's the notion that you're giving me. If I'm a GM for any other team, this is a problem. Like, don't come to my team. I don't want that in my locker room. That's bad energy. I don't care how good you are. That's bad energy. Like, it's cancerous. We can't have that. If I'm bringing you onto my team, if I'm bringing you into my locker room, I'm basically saying, hey, other 52 guys, other 70 guys in this locker room, this behavior is okay. And we will work through it with you. Man, look, we can work through it with you. Like, if you have, and I get it, man, there's a lot of mental instability sometimes when it comes to, guys' careers and how they feel about, their play and where they think they should be on a roster, right? There's a lot there to unpack. But the problem is this is mid-game. We don't have the time to unpack that. I'm sorry. So as far as your mental stability, we can talk about that after the game. We should have talked about it before the game. Mm-hmm. We should have, I don't know if there was any red flags before the game. Like, there was some conversations with coaching staff. Maybe that should have been addressed before going into this game. Because if a player is basically giving you an opportunity to say, hey, coach, like, I don't like how we running things. I don't like how I am, where I am on this roster. I don't like how I'm being treated on depth. Whatever those things are, address it before the game. So that way you are now in this game. It's not a problem. You can go find somebody else to come fill that shoe if he's not cooperating. And so these types of things are all avoidable, but we don't know where these things have started and where we draw the line.
Well, it seems like he's the replacement for Dre Greenlaw. You know, he tore his Achilles in the Super Bowl.
His Achilles in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, so he was playing for him, and then it looked like D. Winters surpassed Campbell in the depth chart. So it made him the third linebacker when they were playing the Rams. They asked him to go in the second quarter when Winters had a neck injury, and he told coach that he wasn't going in. So that had another guy come in instead. Greenlaw came out in the third quarter with soreness in this league. They asked Campbell to go in again. He told him that he did not want to play, and by the fourth quarter, he had a towel on his head and walked to the locker room at the behest of General Manager John Lynch. Now, Nick Bosa said that he was playing his first game in about a month because he was hurt himself. He said there were signs of Campbell's discontent that was evident before they'd even kicked off. He had heard some complaining from Campbell before the game. He said he considered stepping in and saying something, but elected not to because he didn't want to create more of a distraction. But he said he didn't expect that Campbell would choose to not play in a game that he was suited up for, or just walk to the locker room in the fourth quarter.
You hear complaints all the time with guys, right? Man, I want to play more.
Playing time.
I should be the starter, or I should be this. Like, bro, go prove it.
Yeah.
Like, and that's the problem there, right? You mad. Who are you mad at? Are you mad at the coaching staff? Are you mad at the GM? That's cool. Be mad at them, but don't make your teammates pay for it. Do not make your teammates pay for your disgruntledness with the coaching staff and where you are on the roster. If you are upset about it so much, go do something about it. Go make some plays. Go prepare more. Go lift more. Go get faster. Go get smarter with like the details.
Whatever. Learn to play with something. Yeah.
There's ways to handle it. That's not the way to handle it. So kids, do not quit on your teammates.
Especially not in the middle. Don't do it at all. But
don't do it at all. If you want to quit, quit at the end of the season. When the season's over, finish strong with everything that you do. Because if you don't, you're gonna hit a slice. And that slice ain't gonna be nice. You're gonna be sitting there in the ice tub at your house.
I think this dude's career's over because Bosa said it himself. He's like, "Good luck finding employment in the NFL after this," because he's an unrestricted.
Yeah, I wouldn't bring him onto my roster, dog. No. I wouldn't even unless he has like a speech prepared. Like he will not be able to step foot on a football camp of mine.
Yeah,
kids.
I don't even know
unless he's talking about his own situation and his experience and what he's learned from, as far as quitting on a team. That's going to be the only message that's coming out of your mouth when it comes to presenting yourself as a professional athlete. Is this testimony that hopefully you can recover from. Because this is just this ain't it. You don't want this in the workplace.
Mm-hmm.
This is bad workplace
you around forever. It's gonna follow you around, just like when Scottie Pippen didn't want to come in the game in that Bulls playoff game back in the 90s or whatever. Scottie Pippen's a great basketball player, but that follows him around everywhere he goes. Everybody remembers that he didn't come in. You know.
Now, if this was golf, if this was. I can't even say track because you got a track team. People are depending on you. So I'm just gonna say golf. If you didn't want to show, if you said that morning, man, I can't tee off today. I'm done with this. Like my clubs ain't working. I can't get through my hips, whatever it is, and you just feel like you ain't got it that day. Yeah, go ahead and quit. Because the only person that's getting hurt from that is you.
Yeah, it's an individual. Yeah, it's just you're the team. Yeah. Like your team is quite you, but like people are dependent on you. Like you came into this game like socially contracted to want to assist the team to win and to just check out, and because you're just basically pouting, like you're just having like a tantrum, like a child.
But all seriousness, though, that is something that just doesn't happen often. So
yeah, that's why I wanted to ask
all
you.
All seriousness, we want to make sure. Hopefully, he's getting some help. As far as like where he is mentally, we don't want to overlook this and overshadow it. And obviously, we're talking about it with passion because this is the ultimate team sport. This is like elementary Like, we don't do this, right? We do not
Mhm.
quit. We don't quit on our teammates. We
Makes
don't
me think
walk
he's done it
away
before.
from
It
challenges.
makes me think he's done it before. You know what I mean? Like, for it to be
Yeah.
that easy at that level, like, it makes me feel like he checked out of a Pop Warner game or something before, never got reprimanded for it, and it got instilled, hey, this is okay. If something like that happens. You're right. I hope they do. It probably won't be with the 49ers, but
Isaac said, "Nah, if you quit on if you quit on golf, you messing up your caddy's business."
you
Caddy
sign up,
missing out
just
on
do it.
all his,
You're right. You're right.
yeah.
That's facts. Like,
But Isaac, you are correct. If you sign up for anything, just finish.
go do it.
Because if you quit, you quitting on yourself, and that's the worst thing, right? The
It's
worst thing
hard.
about all of this is that DeAndre thought he was proving a point by walking away from his team, but really what he did, he walked away from himself, right? He walked away from his own credibility. He's got himself in a bind. He got his family in a bind, right?
Jeez. Real quick before we get, because I got a hard out at 11:45. Panthers Cardinals 1:00 p.m. on Fox at Bank of America Stadium. It's the last home game of the year. Get out, show support for these Panthers that are learning how to win. And I saw in that 3-game stretch when they were playing, the Panther fans want to cheer for the Panthers. It's not they're not checked out. They're just tired. They're tired of losing games. And I completely understand. What's the number one thing they need to do to defeat the Cardinals on Sunday, Stu?
Finish. I'm just gonna say finish, and obviously that's on the whole entire team, right? But finishing blocks, our run game here, I think we can get these guys. They're playing 3-4. Their interior is not special. So I think we can absolutely move these guys around, and Chuba should have 100+ yard day on the ground. We need him to have at least 10 carries in the first half. I think we, despite what is, there and what happens as far as execution and finishing plays and having extended drives, we must run the ball and just give ourselves some momentum. That is the caliber of football that I think the Carolina Panthers want to be. They want to make sure they're having a balanced attack, meaning when it's time to run the ball, we can run it. When it's time to pass the ball, we can pass it. And we put the defense in a bind, right? We're dictating what's happening on offense by putting them in a bind. And then that's when you find some rhythm. When you have some rhythm, that's when you find that chemistry and everything can get beautiful and sweet again. So I expect a lot of that. Get some play action going, get Bryce moving in the pocket, moving out of the pocket, and finding, Thielen and Coker on the field together. That's something that was brand new for him last week as well. They've never been on the field together at the same time. And so adding that to the mix makes things a lot more exciting. And obviously, I think we're going to miss out on Xavier Legette this game. So you're going to have more back into the mix as well, which is, I think for Bryce, we might actually see like him be free. Like, okay, I think I can throw it to any of these guys and they're going to possess the ball, right?
I'll end it with the same thing. We talked about at the very beginning of the show that Dave Canales has been really good with scripting that first drive, those first 20 plays. They need to score a touchdown on those.
Yeah.
I feel like they've gotten down there and then they end up settle for 3 or something happens like last week where they turn the ball over. Finish, like you said, get a touchdown, get a lead early, let the Panther defense be able to blitz on some of these exotic blitzes that Ajiro Evero is doing, bringing in J.C. Horn from the corner and stuff like that. Attack. Like, again, there's 3 games left in the season. You're not making the playoffs. We're looking for good tape at this point. Like, we want wins. Like, I want to finish the season with 6 wins. Like, that's not something bad. Like, I know it'll knock us to 10 or 11 or whatever in the draft. I don't care. I want to see this team start to win and learn how to win. Bryce Young has won 4 games in his NFL career. Like, which one is more valuable? Him losing these last 3 or him winning these last 3 and building off that confidence going into next year when Dan Morgan can go out to the free agency pool and fill in the holes that we know we have. Going to this draft with more draft picks than we had last year because of what he did in the draft last year and got us back our second, got us back some additional picks. He's going to this draft with like 9-10 picks already. And again, like Skylar said, the problem with this roster was depth. Like they need
Mhm.
depth. Like for when we have those injuries, we don't have that dip. So I'm looking for them to build off of that. We got to get out of here. We're up against the time, but we'll be back next week with a new episode. Panthers Cardinals 1:00 p.m. on Fox. We'll have a recap of that. We'll kind of look at the season. And I never got a chance to get into it, but we'll be able to talk to it next week. And it's Bill Belichick at Carolina. How that might flip college football and college athletics on its end. We'll talk about that next week as well. So, but for Jonathan Stewart, this is Desmond Johnson. You've been listening and watching the Bleav in Panthers podcast on Bleav Podcast Networks. The audio will be out on Bleav Networks a little bit later on this afternoon. Keep panning.